b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. סברי, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. L'chaim. All right, our blessing for Torah study. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. All right, it is so wonderful to be here with you for our first Torah study of the new year. That being, of course, the secular new year. Before we start, I would love to invite Franklin to share some words about Edith.
Is this on? Hi.
Do you want to stand so you can look at everyone?
Okay, sure. I'll stand and I can look at everyone. Okay, I didn't realize I was doing this.
Well, your dad told me, so.
Yeah, that's, okay. Hi. Shabbat Shalom. I was told that in my parents' absence, these chairs were left empty for them. I just want to express my gratitude to this community for honoring my parents so well, and for keeping my mother's seat unoccupied in her honor too. After all this time, obviously we all miss her immensely and think about her all the time. And I'm led to understand that some people have made the mistake of sitting in this chair. and there's been enforcers who have rolled in, like hockey enforcers, to smack these guys up against the wall. So yeah, the love that you all have for my family is very much appreciated, and just want to thank you all for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Just so you know, she had her own spot in the sanctuary too.
Oh, thank you so much.
So we're in the last parsha of the book of Genesis, Vayechi. And we also are looking at the death of a very significant person, the death of Jacob. And of course, with us, how we do the triennial cycle, we really began our reading today with the children. Jacob has passed away, and the children are going to be faced with each other. And so As we're thinking about this Torah portion and the new year, I wanted to open with a few questions. Is everything really for the good? Yes, I did watch Wicked also, so, for good is like stuck in my head. A 3-month recap of how are we doing on those New Year's resolutions. And really, what does a good apology look like? So when we go into our 5786 New Year, we really think about our spiritual work and the relationships that we want to mend. And oftentimes, people will send out, religious people who genuinely mean it, send out notes. If I've offended you, please forgive me, I apologize. The trick is, if that person offended you, you need to tell them what they did. Because clearly, if they're coming from a genuine place, they want to know. And they want to build that bridge. When we know that we have hurt someone, it's upon us, right? Our responsibility to go to them and seek forgiveness. And in the same way, when somebody has hurt us, it's important for us to go and seek out that reparation. As we are poised in 2026 now, most of these kinds of New Year's resolutions usually aren't that much of the spiritual kind. They're usually more of the physical kind. But you are all here. This is an awesome, awesome turnout. So hopefully it is a renewed spiritual commitment that we're making. Okay, so we're going to look at, in particular, Joseph and his brothers today. And hopefully we will have time to look at a particular rabbi from the Talmud named Gamzu, okay? Okay? Gamzu. Right. Yeah. Not Gonzo. Look, Gamzu. Okay. I know. It could be Gamzo, but the Steinsaltz translates it to Gamzu. Okay. All right, so we're going to look at the death of the patriarch. So for us, we are in Genesis chapter 50. If you have the plout from the back of the room, it's on page 314. Okay. Little background. I know you know it, but just to make sure we're all up to speed, right? Joseph was the favorite child of his father, Jacob. Yes. Was that not perfect? Oh my gosh, something did go wrong. Okay. Okay. So, all right. Joseph was the favorite child, the first child of Jacob's favorite wife, Rachel, who he tried multiple times to marry, right? In his mother's absence, Jacob dressed him up in this Technicolor dream coat. Another Torah study sometimes, we can talk about the only other place where we see that tunic is that it is the tunic that virgin women are dressed in, okay? All right, so he's dressed up in this dream coat. He has a special status. He tattles on his brothers. They are all very annoyed with him. They've had enough one day, and they throw him into a pit before being convinced that they should instead sell him into slavery. He goes into slavery, can interpret dreams, eventually ends up interpreting dreams for Pharaoh, becomes the second in command. And then the past 2 weeks, we've been seeing him test his brothers to see if they have truly made tshuva and if he can trust them to know who he is once again. All right, so here in our Torah portion, he had brought his brothers, he had brought his father, he had brought all of the people to Egypt, to Goshen, right? This flourishing land. And it looks as though they have reconciled, but now Jacob dies. And so the boys are, meaning his brothers, because these are old men at this point, right? They are scared that Joseph, who again is the second in command, is going to finally take his vengeance. Okay, so here we are reading on 3:14. Who starts? Norman, you start, right? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Joseph flung himself upon his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. Then Joseph ordered the physicians in his service to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. It required 40 days, for such is the full period of embalming. The Egyptians bewailed him 70 days. And when the wailing period was over, Joseph spoke to Pharaoh's court, saying, "Do me this favor, and lay this appeal before Pharaoh. My father made me swear, saying, 'I'm about to die. Be sure to bury me in the grave which I made ready for myself in the land of Canaan. Now, therefore, let me go up and bury my father. Then I shall return.' And Pharaoh said, 'Go up and bury your father, as he made you promise on oath.'"
Okay, so we're going to get to more of the confrontation, but I want us to have the background. We can see here Joseph is very emotional, right? And we also see that Jacob is embalmed in the way of the Egyptians, all right? 40 days. This is a very long period, a very long mourning period, but the mourning isn't over, right? Because Joseph needs to take his father's bones back to Machpelah. Okay.
So Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went all of the officials of Pharaoh, and the senior members of his court, and all of Egypt's dignitaries, together with all of Joseph's household, his brothers, and his father's household. Only their children, their flocks, and their herds were left in the region of Goshen. Chariots, too, and horsemen went up with him. It was a very large troop.
Okay, so we see this is like a royal entourage. He's being treated as one of the highest dignitaries in Egypt.
When they came to Goren Ha'atad, which is beyond the Jordan, they held there a very great and solemn lamentation, and he observed a mourning period of 7 days for his father. And when the Canaanite inhabitants of the land saw the mourning at Goren Ha'atad, they said, "This is a solemn mourning on the part of the Egyptians." That is why it was named Abel Mizraim, which is beyond the Jordan. Thus his sons did for him as he had instructed them. His sons carried him to the land of Canaan, buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, the field near Mamre, which Abraham had bought for a burial site from Ephron the Hittite. After burying his father, Joseph returned to Egypt, he and his brothers, and all who had gone up with him to bury his father.
Okay. All right, so now we're getting this moment, right? Up until now, they've been surrounded by people. It's been about mourning their father. Now they're going to return to Egypt and resume life as normal, right? Not as completely normal, but they're out of that acute mourning period. Yeah, 15.
Joseph's brothers perceived that their father was dead, and they said, "Perhaps Joseph will nurse hatred against us, and then he will surely repay us all the evil that we did him." So they instructed that Joseph be told, "Your father gave orders before his death, saying, 'Thus shall you say to Joseph, "Oh, please, kindly forgive the spiteful deed of your brothers and their sin, for they have done you evil. So now, please forgive the spiteful deed of the servants of your father's God." And Joseph wept when they spoke to him.
Okay. We're going to read a little bit more, but before we do, let's do some Torah study. All right. What's happening in this paragraph from like 15 through 17? Like, what do you see? What do you have questions about? What seems wrong? What seems right? What's interesting? Sorry, what?
The brothers are lying to Joseph, saying their father told me not to hold anything against.
Okay, so the brothers align.
Yeah,
Okay.
They haven't changed.
Okay. All right, so have the brothers changed. Can you see this? No, so why am I writing it? Okay. It looks skinny. It looks skinny. Hold on. The red might. Nope. All right. Okay, so did they, I'm just going to put words. There we go. Changed. Okay, have the brothers changed? Okay, but they are aligned. Okay. What else?
I think you said they were lying.
Lying. Okay, are they lying?
They're obeying. They're obeying.
They're obeying who? Okay, so that's our choices. Either they're lying or they're obeying their dad. We've never, yes?
Why exactly was Joseph in tears?
We see Joseph's reaction. Okay, so Joseph, he's crying. All right. What else? Anything else? This is good. Yeah.
Who sent the message? Who sent the message?
Which message? Oh, who sent? Oh,
It's not.
yeah.
Brothers told you.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. There's an intermediary. Okay. Intermediary. Is that right? I don't know. This is what I was a math person. Okay. I was not a speller. And my mom was like, learn to spell. And I was like, the computer fixes it. So, and it still does. Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. This is really good so far. All right. So we're going to read just a teeny bit more. And then we're going to look at all of the rabbis pull this apart. Okay? All right, let's read 18 through 21. Where's the microphone? All right, Joseph.
His brothers went to him themselves, flung themselves before him, and said, "We are prepared to be your slaves." But Joseph said to them, "Have no fear. Am I a substitute for God? Besides, although you intended me harm, God intended it for good, so as to bring about the present result, the survival of many people. And so fear not, I will sustain you and your children." Thus he reassured them, speaking kindly to them.
Okay, let's do it again. What do we see? What do we notice? What bothers us? What's interesting? Yeah.
Joseph seems to be acting as a prophet. He says he's good. And he just seems
Yeah, tell me how he's acting as a prophet. I like it. But tell me, what were you saying?
He says that your heart, you intended bad for me, but instead it's going to be good.
Okay.
He understands God's plan.
Okay, so Joseph gets God. Okay, yes.
I think it's relevant that the brothers are so frightened and that they're willing to subject themselves to slavery in order to
All right.
protect themselves.
So the brothers are scared, right? And they offer themselves as slaves. Yeah.
A sort of a foreshadowing of what the whole population of Jews are going to be? Absolutely.
Good. Foreshadowing. Coming up, next week's Torah portion. All right. We got Bill Silver as Moses here. All right, there we go. All right. Okay, awesome, awesome. Yes, Carol.
I think the brothers were thinking of Joseph in the way they are. And they were Joseph's shoes, what they were, so they feared that. Joseph
Perfect.
was thinking this way. But Joseph was different because he had God in the forefront of his mind. And so his whole life is a caution of what God would want of him.
Okay, awesome. So if you didn't hear Carol, she's saying, like, the brothers are trying to put themselves in Joseph's shoes and saying, if it were me, what would I do right now? Right? I would take this opportunity to get my vengeance. But Joseph isn't that kind of a person. Yeah.
Joseph has gotten over his anger and his need for revenge.
Okay. All right. So Like Joseph has forgiven. All right. All right. Now let's look at what the rabbis say. Okay, so we're going to start our first text on the handout. Actually, all of the first few are from Breshit Rabbah. Okay, so Breshit Rabbah is it's a collection of midrashim. Okay, and you can see the bold is the quote from the Torah text. Okay? All right, Shelley, will you read number 1 for us?
Joseph returned to Egypt, he and his brothers and everyone who went up with him to bury his father. After he buried his father, Joseph's brothers saw that their father had died, and they said, "Perhaps Joseph will hate us and will repay us for all the evil that we did to him." Joseph returned to Egypt. Rabbi Levi and Rabbi Yitzchak said, "It is because he did not invite them to the meal." Rabbi Tanhuma said his intention was only for the sake of heaven. He said, "In the past, Father would seat me above Judah, who is king, and above Reuben, who is firstborn. Now it is improper for me to sit above them." But that is not what they said, but rather, "Perhaps Joseph will hate us." Rabbi Yitzchak said, "He went and peered into that pit." Rabbi Tanhuma said, his intention was only for the sake of heaven, but that is not what they said, but rather, "Perhaps Joseph will hate us."
Okay. You can see how fun it is to read Midrash. Circular all over the place, but also super interesting, right? So let's just take a second to sit at the table with Rabbi Levi and Rabbi Yitzhak, right? They're like, and Rabbi Tanhuma, okay? So they're talking to each other. Joseph returned to Egypt, right? What's different? Right? Something's different. Something made his brothers suddenly say, "Our dad died." Obviously he died, right? He was embalmed for 40 days. They were just mourning by Machpelah for 7 days. Why are they talking about it all of a sudden? Right? Maybe he hates us now. Right? So something was different. What was different? Well, their father's dead, and so one idea is he didn't invite them to come and eat with them. Even when they came to Egypt and they didn't know Joseph was Joseph invited them to eat with them, right? He didn't invite them to the meal. And so they thought, uh-oh, we're not family anymore. We're not having family dinner, right? Like, this looks bad, but this is why it's fun to read this, right? Rabbi Tanhuma says, no. Joseph didn't invite them to dinner, not because Joseph didn't love them and want them to be family, but because he didn't know how to sit. He didn't know how to sit. There's this Reuben, right? He's the eldest of the children of Israel, right? Let's sing the song. Reuben was the eldest of the children of Israel. Okay, Reuben's the eldest. How am I supposed to sit above him? But I'm the Egyptian viceroy. Of course I'm supposed to, right? How are we going to sit? And what about Judah? Right? Dad on his deathbed, which was earlier in this Torah portion, but triennial cycle, we'll read it next year, right? Judah was named king by his father. So he didn't know how to sit them. By the way, for those of us who try and practice Musar, this is one of our exercises. Because we fill in the blanks, right? I wasn't invited to dinner. I'm going to fill in the blank. You hate me. Right? Yes?
I'm not going to feed all your friends over there.
Fair, very fair. Though, see, in my house, my husband cooks, and that's why none of you have come over for dinner. So, because it's that. He doesn't want to cook for other people. Huh? He's such a good cook. He's a really good cook. Okay. Okay.
A lot of guilt feelings?
Guilt feelings? Yes, yes, they are projecting their guilt for sure. Now, there is something else here though, okay? Because, right, what do we say, like 2 Jews, 3 opinions? We have 3 Jews, we better get a couple opinions, right? The other one, okay, they say, he went and peered into that pit. What pit? Right, the one that was rake and bore, right? Like the pit that they threw him in, right? Because when we went last time from the promised land, right, near Machpelah, right, to Egypt, we threw Joseph in the pit. So he had this opportunity to look into the pit, and they saw him look into the pit, and again, they filled in the blank. Yeah, okay, I want people to use mics. Let's try and do this with microphones.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
So, where does it say that anybody told the father what they had done? Originally, they said Joseph had been killed, right? They said, oh, an animal ate him or something. We know that Joseph didn't tell him.
Right.
And it doesn't seem that the brothers, they just said, oh my gosh, he's alive. But they never said that they did that. So when they sent the message to Joseph and saying, oh, forgive them for the evil they did to you, I mean...
Yes. Okay, great question. All right. And a beautiful midrash. There's a beautiful midrash, which is the answer to that, which is... there is a particular woman, yay women, okay. There's a particular woman who is mentioned twice. She is mentioned because we do census, right? We do the census like multiple times, right? So Serach bat Asher, so Serach, the daughter of Asher, okay? So Asher's one of the 12, right? So Asher has a daughter named Serach, and she is mentioned both as like being in Egypt at the beginning and as being one of those who is freed from Egypt. Okay, so the rabbis are like, how did this woman live for hundreds of years? Who is she? What's so special about her? And she does a few things. One is they say that she is the one who tells Jacob that Joseph is alive. It's actually really amazing. She's like playing music and she's singing a song and she's the one to tell him. And also she is there to witness when the sea parts and we escape. So she comes down into the yeshiva, right? Like as the rabbis are debating, what do the walls of the water look like? And she's the one who explains it to them because she was there. So she's this magical granddaughter who's the one to answer the question and tell him that Joseph is still alive. But I digress because that is not this, but it's very cool. All right. There was another.
So do they see her as a god?
She's definitely not a god, but she's more like Elijah, right? Like where Elijah is brought to heaven and never dies and can come actually to the house of study and answer questions. She's like that. But do we sing Serach bat Asher? No, we don't. Is that right? Like we sing Eliyahu Hanavi. Okay. All right, so we have one idea here, okay? The idea that he didn't invite them to dinner and that he looked in the pit, but it doesn't tell us more about what that means, okay? So we're going to flip back and forth just a little bit because I wanted to keep the Breshit Rabbah together, but I want to look at somebody else commenting on it. So go to page 2, and we are going to... We're going to go to text number 4 with the Chizkuni, which should be capitalized. I apologize that I didn't capitalize his name. Okay. Who's reading? Bill. Will you read for us?
His kuni, they said, perhaps Joseph will hate us. When the brothers had returned from burying their father in Canaan, Joseph passed the pit into which the brothers had thrown him and recited the blessing. The God who has performed a miracle for me at this place. When the brothers heard this, they became afraid that old animosities might flare up again.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Whew. Okay. So here we see, not only did he pass by the pit, he said a blessing, right? It's his own little Birkat HaGomel, okay? Birkat HaGomel is like the blessing we say when we almost die, but we don't. Okay. So he didn't just walk past the place. He stopped and he said something. All right, now I'm like, do we want to do Rashi before I go back? Yes.
I find it interesting that, in the family dynamic, it's just not the ability to have a social interaction to say, look, we're at the pit. Remember, what do you think? To have any kind of a discourse, of a social, there's still that separation, Joseph and the brothers. They're brothers, but they're really struggling to divide up.
Yeah. Right, beautiful. And how often do we do that? Do we tiptoe around a wound? Right? All the time. Right? So you could understand, right? You could understand if, they're walking by and the pit is there and they're like, do. Like, let's not point it out. But if they even saw him stop and say something and then they still try and ignore it, right? Like, dancing around that wound. Yeah.
In going along the same line, I've been thinking that family dynamics are just so interesting because when your kids are growing up, as a parent, sometimes you wonder what effect you're having on them. Well, here clearly, the father was having some kind of stabilizing effect within the family. He was holding it together, and when he was gone, they reverted kind of to almost who they were. Joseph was a prophet, and he saw things prophetically. And the brothers kind of returned to that childish attitude of jealousy or of fear that Joseph was still going to take out had his anger. It was a totally different. They became who they were in a sense when the father died. That stabilizing effect of the parent, which I think sometimes at least I often wonder about.
Beautiful.
Whether you're having that effect or not.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. So, hold on. All right. So, Jacob had some sort of a stabilizing effect. I love that.
He sees it as a metaphor.
Okay, come on. Wait, I keep forgetting about the mic. Can we have a mic over here? I know, everybody wants to say something, including me. Okay, go ahead.
I see the pit as a metaphor, and I'm not convinced that Joseph was the only one who veered into the pit. I think the brothers may have also. When you don't know what's going on, either because you haven't confronted people directly or you haven't asked them, you make up a story about it.
Yep.
And that's the pit for the brothers. They looked into the pit and they assumed he's going to hate us.
Right.
That's the story that they made up. Joseph looked into the pit and recites a blessing for God. So, what he interpreted from the pit was something good, and what the brothers interpreted from looking into the pit was the worst that they could imagine. He's going to hate us.
Yeah. Beautiful.
When Joseph made the blessing, thank you. When Joseph made the blessing, he realized
he thanked God because he would not, unless they threw him in the pit, he would not have become who he became.
Right.
The brothers couldn't get over the fact that they did something wrong, and they just carried it with them their whole lives.
Right. Okay. Right. It's a turning point. If he hadn't gone into the pit, we wouldn't be reading about him, right? And he wouldn't have been able to save not only his family, right, but Egypt from starvation.
All of that is very true, and thank you for illuminating it. For me, what I take from all of this is the impact of reasoning from silence.
Yeah.
When you don't communicate, you can't convey the true meaning of your behavior. Even when you do communicate, you're not always successful. Okay?
Yes.
But if you remain silent, you allow the other side to derive whatever their internal dialogue about the moment is going to tell them, and enables the imputation of their thoughts into that void. And it may not be your thoughts, and most times it's not. So in my practice, I caution against reasoning from silence every chance I get. Don't assume that that's the basis. That may be your basis, okay? That may be your analysis. That may be your approach to this matter. But don't assume that that's the motivation or the purpose or the reason, underlying the other side's apparent position. Let's go find out.
Good.
Let's ask the question.
Love it. Love it. By the way, a lot of the work that I do with couples is this. Right? Like, how do we work on communication, active listening? Because, we fill in the blanks with wildly different things. It's kind of like, it's a Mad Libs. Right? What I wanted to share, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, is one of from my vantage point as a rabbi, what I often see at end of life is how the matriarch or patriarch was holding the family together. And we don't know. We're going to go more into this. If the brothers are lying when they say Jacob said this, our father, your father said this, right? Because we never see him say that. But a lot of us, right, what we want more than anything is for our children to be there for each other and to take care of each other. So is it a fair assumption that maybe he did want that? Right? Okay, let's keep going.
The brothers might have been worried that when he walked by the pit, medically, he might have had an episode of pit ST.
Oh my God. Oh, you have it. Great. Is it on?
Oh, I think it's on. Okay. I think of something completely different. I think about when you look back on your life and you think about something that happened to you that was really horrible. Okay? And you can think back on it and you can just keep saying to yourself, or I can keep saying to myself, wasn't that awful? Isn't that terrible? Wasn't that a terrible thing that happened to me and I'm so upset and blah, blah, blah. Or you can say, I am who I am today because that happened to me.
Yeah.
And Joseph was able to say, I am who I am today because of what happened to me, which is a hard thing to do, but it helps you move on.
It does. It's a beautiful, it's a healing tool. Do you still want to?
It's on a different subject, but
That's okay.
it's very interesting how good the Egyptians were to Joseph. In all of these passages, they say, you made an oath to bury him there, we'll send our servants, we'll help you, we're lamenting. And so when you get to Exodus and you see, there was a Pharaoh who arose in Egypt who knew not Joseph, it really makes you think how you can have it really good somewhere for a while, and then you can live in a place that's not Israel, and it gets forgotten. So Because there's a lot here about how good the Egyptians were to anything Joseph wanted, with not just Joseph, but all his people.
Yeah. And how he was treated. Yeah.
The way that Jacob was buried, I think, also could have been very alienating for the brothers, because it was the whole procession, and it was in the Egyptian style, and the embalming and everything, and so it possibly removed their brother even further from them.
Okay, good point, right? Embalming is not ideal, okay, in Jewish tradition, right? We would never wait 40 days to bury someone. So it is not ideal. And it does show that he has really assimilated in a lot of ways to Egyptian culture. Okay. So he sees the pit. They're walking. Rashi in 5 makes the point already made in Genesis Rabbah. All right, I do want to look at 6 really quickly. It just says, thy father did command. Okay, your dad said, right? They altered the facts. They stated something that was false for the sake of peace, for Jacob had given them no such command, because Joseph was not suspect in his sight. Was not suspect in his sight. So now we're going to go back. Okay, so back to page 1, text number 2. All right, so we're going to go back to the table. All right. They instructed to tell Joseph, saying, your father instructed. Such an easy translation. All right. Hillary, are you reading? Oh, Sherry?
I'll do it.
Oh, all right. Let's get
They instructed to tell Joseph, saying, your father instructed before his death, saying, so say to Joseph, please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin as they did evil to you. And now please forgive the transgression of the servants of the God of your father. Joseph wept as they spoke to him. They instructed to tell Joseph, saying, your father instructed. It is taught, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, great is peace, as even the tribes spoke fabricated matters in order to impose peace between Joseph and the tribes. That is what is written. They instructed to tell Joseph, saying, where did he instruct? We do not find that he instructed. So say to Joseph. Joseph wept as they spoke to him. He said, this is how my brothers are suspicious of me.
Okay. Woo! All right, so again, not the easiest read, but very informative. Right, so there's how great is peace. By the way, there's an entire section of the Talmud where they keep doing this. How great is peace? Right, we saw one of them earlier in Genesis. How great is peace? God changes Sarah's words, right? When Sarah laughed, saying, you think my husband's going to give me a kid? Right? God changes her words. That's one of the how great is peace, right? Changes her words, like saying, do you think I could bear a kid at such an old age? All right, so here's another how great is peace. How great is peace? That they're able to lie. It's okay to lie to create peace. By the way, Rabbi Telushkin, Joseph Telushkin, he outlines 6 situations in which it is either okay or sometimes required to lie within Judaism. Okay? And, right, I always feel like everything's middle school, right? Everything is middle school. That's going to be the name of one of my books. Okay. It's okay to say, right? Oh, Franklin, I know that you and Norm have been fighting, right? He feels really bad about it. I think, you should give him a break, right? Even though he's like, I'm mad at you, so, right? You're allowed to, lie a little bit. A little bit. Not huge, right? A little bit. You're allowed to lie a little bit. So this is one of those. And Joseph...
First of all, if the brothers are lying, which in the Torah you have to read
maybe he did say it, but it wasn't in the film.
Right?
You don't know.
You never know. Big old blanks.
But if they were lying, it's not, if it's lying for peace, it's peace for themselves, not for Joseph.
Aha. Okay.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know one of the other places where we see lying? When Abraham lies about his about
wife.
Sarah
His wife is
being his
Sarah's
sister,
wife. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Isaac lies about Rebecca being his sister, right? So they also lie to save their own skin.
Yes, that's what, to save their own skin.
Yes. This is not necessarily altruistic lying. Okay, good point. Very good point, Sherry. So we need to, I really wish like that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel could answer us. Maybe Serach bat Asher could dip down and interrupt our Torah study like she did for them. Okay. They are lying to save their own skin, but it is also lying for peace of the family, right? Because they're not only saving their own, they're saving their brothers and all of this. But Joseph, so say to Joseph, and he's crying. Remember, we have the crying. Why is he crying? He's crying, this is how they're suspicious of me? They think that as soon as Dad dies, I'm going to take vengeance on them after everything I've done? Right? They still think I'm this terrible person? Do you, Joe?
I think it's strategic because the brothers are right now in Canaan, okay? And if they feel that he's not genuine and that he really does hold this, grudge, then they'll stay there and they won't go back to Egypt. So it's kind of prophetic as well.
Okay, they're actually back in Egypt, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Like, can we stay here? Can we live in Goshen? Okay. All right. So, we're seeing, okay, let's turn the page again. We're going to go to 2. Page 2, text number 3. This is our last Bereshit Rabbah text. It's just a sentence, right? We see his brothers went to and fell before him and said, behold, we're your slaves, right? You have it, they're scared. They're saying they'll be his slaves. And we have to think of, right, you wanted one of us as a slave. Here, we're all your slaves. Remember that they kept Shimon, and then, first they kept Shimon and said, you're not going to, if you come back, you have to bring your youngest, right, which was Benjamin, now the second favorite. And then he wanted Benjamin to be a slave. They're like, we'll all be your slaves. Okay. So it's giving us a little bit of psychology, right? Joseph's brother, the rabbis assume Joseph's behavior has changed in some way, and that the brothers are filling in the blanks. They are not having conversation. They're sending an intermediary, right? They sent word to Joseph saying, okay, that means they weren't hanging out, right? Rashi fills in the blank for that. Is it Rashi or is it Chizkuni? No, it's Chizkuni fills in the blank saying, they tell the sons of Bela to tell Joseph. Okay? Rashi also says it, but he's quoting Chizkuni. Okay, no, it's fine. All right, so they have some sort of intermediary that's going between them. They're not having conversations. They're filling in the blanks. They're assuming the worst of each other. And our rabbis are getting into Joseph's psychology. Why is he crying? He's not crying because he's so moved by his brothers, because he's moved by his father's last words, because they've humbled themselves before him. No, he's crying because they think this of me. They think I'm the kind of person who would do that, right? Oof.
Or did he see that they were all going to be slaves? If he was such a prognosticator and he could see in the future and interpret the dreams, they were all your slaves.
Look at that. Love that. Maybe. Who knows? Hi. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little practical. Okay. We are going to go to text number 9. This is Julie Corliss, the executive director of the Harvard Heart Letter. All right, apparently, I didn't know this, maybe some of you Harvard alum will, that Harvard has like a more loving newsletter that it sends out with practical things. This is about how to give an apology, okay? Who wants to read? Where are we? Thank you.
Number 1, acknowledge the offense. Take responsibility for the offense, whether it was a physical or psychological harm, and confirm that your behavior was not acceptable. Avoid using vague or evasive language or wording an apology in a way that minimizes the offense or questions whether the victim was really hurt.
Okay, so we're on page 3 with the bullet points. Wow, that just flew out of my brain. Okay, with the bullet points. So the first thing, if we're going to give an apology, this is like, right, we should all learn how to do this. We have to acknowledge the offense, take responsibility. Have the brothers done this? No. All right, let's keep going. Yeah.
Explain what happened. The challenge here is to explain how the offense occurred without excusing it. In fact, sometimes the best strategy is to say, there is no excuse.
Oof. That's a hard one, right? Explain what happened without giving excuses. All right, let's keep going.
Express remorse. If you regret the error or feel ashamed or humiliated, say so. This is all part of expressing sincere remorse.
Okay. Isn't it it's kind of sad, but it's true. We need these steps. We need to know how to express remorse. We can feel it, but it's hard to express it. All right, and last.
Offer to make amends. For example, if you have damaged someone's property, have it repaired or replace it. When the offense has hurt someone's feelings, acknowledge the pain and promise to try to be more sensitive in the future.
Okay. Now, for those of you who are looking at this and thinking, wait, we have this in our steps of teshuvah, right? We have all of these. And the last step, which hopefully you won't be, but supposedly we had done with the brothers and Joseph already, is if you're put in the same situation, make a different choice, right? Okay, so this is maybe the danger of Joseph testing them without their knowledge. He put them in the same situation. He skipped to the last step. He skipped to the last step of teshuvah, which isn't included in this list from the heart letter, okay? The last step of teshuvah is if I'm put in the same situation, I don't make that choice again. He saw that his brothers were put in the same situation with Benjamin, right? The favorite child can be sold as a slave, and you'll be okay. And they chose something different, right? Judah said, take me, the whole scene. But they never went through the rest of this. The brothers never admitted what they did wrong. In fact, when he asks, had you another brother? They don't say what happened to Joseph. They lie about what happened to Joseph. We never saw them take responsibility for the offense. We never saw them explain what happened. We never saw them express remorse or offer to make amends. All right, so we have here, by the way, I think for the sake of the bat mitzvah, I will not go through the entire what's it called, table here. Wow, words. Okay. But it didn't print beautifully, but the effective wording and why it works, awesome. Awesome, okay? All right, like, okay, I'm just going to give one, right? Express what happened. I forgot. I apologize for this mistake. It shouldn't have happened. What can I do to avoid this problem in the future? Right? Why does it work? Because I'm taking responsibility. I'm not giving an excuse, right? I describe the mistake. I'm saying that I care for the person. And it begins the conversation about how to remedy the error, right? And then, I love okay. You know why these don't work. If you go to the next part, ineffective wording. I apologize for whatever happened. I clearly, when saying that, don't know what I did, right? Mistakes were made, right? I'm having zero ownership, right? Okay, I apologize. I didn't know this was such a sensitive issue for you, right? That is like an anti-apology. Right? All right, so we have this situation. All right. So let's look at their actual apology here on page 5. It is just the text again, right? They're putting words in their dad's mouth, right? Jacob said, "Please forgive the sin of your brothers and their guilt, for they dealt you ill." And then the brothers say on their own behalf, although it's the intermediaries, right? "But now forgive the sin of the servants of the God of your father." Okay, so what's good about the apology? What does it lack? And then we're going to look at how Joseph responds. Yes, Pamela.
It's lacking acknowledgement of what they did.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's lacking acknowledgement of what they did, and it's asking for, it's making an apology in a much more general sense.
Okay, yes. So it's general. They are admitting that they sinned, but they won't even admit they sinned in their own voice. Right? Mm-hmm. They're saying, our dad knows, dad knows that we didn't do right by you. Right? And then look at the way that they say, right? Forgive the sins of the servants of the God of your father. Okay? Right? Annabella.
I think that they basically are acknowledging or debating whether the God of their father is the God of Joseph. They don't know if, as a big honcho in the Egyptian court, whether he still is Jewish or not.
Okay, interesting. All right, we know, right? We've been watching Joseph's stories. We've had a front row seat. And so we know that Joseph keeps crediting God for everything, right? It's not me interpreting your dreams. It's God, right? I know all my power comes from God. Maybe they don't know that, right? They haven't been around him, and when they are around him, then their dad is there. So maybe it's a show for dad. I don't know, right? Who is this guy anymore? But I love this, right? Forgive the sins of the servants of the God of your father. So they're like, who does Joseph care about? God and dad, right? They're not saying, don't do it for us, do it for God. Do it for dad, right? Like, they're watching. Okay, and 1, 2, and then we're going to keep going.
I just think it's interesting also that sin is a singular word, it's not plural. The sin, as if they only committed one, as if they've never committed any others, etc.
Ooh, yes. Right, okay, I love it. Okay, yes, all right.
So the brothers wanted Joseph to forgive them, but the problem is the brothers did not forgive themselves, and that's what they needed to do.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, beautiful psychology there, right? Sometimes we are forgiven. We're forgiven for whatever we did. It wasn't that big of a deal. Hey, I ended up viceroy. Let's call it a day, right? Like, we all would have died starving had you not done that. It's okay, right? But can we forgive ourselves? Can we let go of what we did? That's awesome. All right. 1, 2, and then...
Sometimes you lose control of the situation. And specifically, I was thinking of Lashon Hara. In Lashon Hara, you pass the bad word along, and nobody knows sometimes even where it began. It's difficult to control a situation like that.
Okay. Good. Okay. So sometimes we get caught up.
As long as you're using psychological terms, you have to think of the brothers. Their fault is they're projecting.
Yes.
And by projecting that onto Joseph, they find it hard to forgive and all that.
Beautiful. All right. Yes. So we have a lot of things going on in here. Poor communication, skipping steps in the forgiveness, projecting onto one another. And I just want to, just for a moment, think about Joseph as a good guy. Right? We can all think of them. They're all a mixed bag, okay? But you think about, bratty little show-off Joseph, right? Tattletaling on his big brothers and getting, right? And being so annoying that they throw him into a pit, right? There's also the perspective, which Elie Wiesel gives, of Joseph was an orphan whose mom died and whose brothers have zero compassion for him, who, so what? His dad gives him some special treatment. He didn't have a mom. He needed extra attention, right? And they treat him so horribly. And he does. He goes, he's imprisoned because he doesn't sleep with his boss's wife. He is, all of these horrible things. And then he sees his brothers could be compassionate to each other and take care of each other, but they couldn't do it for him. And now here he is taking them in, and they still think he's the kind of person who's going to kill them all now that their dad is gone, or hold this grudge, right? Poor Joseph, right? There's a whole other way we can read this whole Joseph story, though, right? Where maybe maybe they do need this. Okay. I want to just point out for us that the apology is a non-apology. And Joseph's forgiveness, let's look back at, is not necessarily true forgiveness, right? Look. Okay, go back to the verse 19. Okay, Genesis 50, verse 19. Joseph said to them, "Have no fear. Am I a substitute for God?" He's not saying, "I forgive you. Water under the bridge." He's saying, that's God's job to judge you. Now that could be looked at as very humble or a curse, right? Yeah, God's going to judge you, all right? And then he says, besides, while you intended me harm, they didn't say that. He's saying, I know you wanted to hurt me. I know you intended me harm, right? God looked out for me. So all we know, right? The next scene, as is pointed out, the next scene is, right, that Pharaoh arrives who didn't know Joseph. We know that we continue to dwell there. Joseph doesn't take vengeance, but we don't know like what happens with the family dynamics, but that reparation isn't there. Whew. So, as we think about our relationships and reflect from 3 months ago till now, from New Year to New Year, have we been really doing that soul work? It's important for us to think about, are we filling in blanks? Are we being generous with other people and our assumptions of them? Because we're going to assume something one way or another. Have we really done the work of true apologizing? Which means taking ownership of my part, even if I have an excuse. I don't need to give them an excuse. I need to own what I did. Am I owning my part of it? Am I really now, right, can I recommit to if I were put in the same situation, how I would do things differently? This is, the time of year where people double down on their workout routines, right? But for us, it's a 3-month checkup of like, how's our soul work going? How are we trying to make ourselves better? By not lying to ourselves, but by being truly honest, by working on communication. And also, sometimes, by trying to have a positive perspective. All right, so there's a lot more in here because, as you know, I prepare an hour Torah study with 3 hours worth of material. So I just want to point out, because it is amazing. And I included on page 6 and 7 from who this Rabbi Gamzo is, okay? So Rabbi Gamzo, just because, Joseph's forgiveness is you intended it for harm, but God intended it for good, he is this rabbi who thinks Gam ze latov, okay? Everything is for the good. All right, so we get a story in Ta'anit. I put it out of order for you of who he is, because it's, okay, I'm just going to do it really quick. Okay, 12. Why did they call him Nahum of Gamzo? The reason is that with regard to any matter that occurred to him, he would say this too is for the good. Gam zu latova. Once the Jews wished to send a gift to the house of the emperor, and they said, who should give the gift to the emperor? And they say, Gamzo should go, right? Because miracles happen for this guy. So they sent him with a chest full of jewels and pearls. He stays the night at an inn. During the night, the residents steal the pearls from him, and they fill up the chest with dirt. So he arrives at the palace, opens the chest, and it's full of dirt. The king wants to put him to death, saying the Jews are mocking me, but Gamzu says, Gamzu l'tova, right? This too will be for the good. And Elijah the prophet came and appeared before the ruler as if he was one of the ministers, okay? And he says, perhaps this earth is from the earth of their father Abraham. When he threw earth, it turned into swords. When he threw stubble, it turned into arrows. And they quote, and there was a province that the Romans were unable to conquer, and they throw the dirt in there, and guess what happens? They win. So the king says, thank you, and he fills the chest with pearls. And then he's traveling back, and he stays at the same inn. And they say, what did you do that the emperor gave you such great an honor? And he said, what I took from here, I brought there. So what do? They fill up a chest with dirt to bring to the king. And what does the king do? He kills them. All right. Now, okay, before this, I want you to hear about Gamzu. So they say, why did they call him Gamzu? So this is, okay, I'm just going to read a little bit. They said about Nahum of Gamzu that he was blind in both eyes, Both his arms were amputated. Both his legs were amputated. And his entire body was covered in boils. All right? And he was lying in a dilapidated house. And legs of his bed were placed in buckets of water so the ants shouldn't climb up onto him. All right, this is this lucky guy who thinks everything is for the good. All right. By the way, he gives a whole story of why this is a good thing for him, because he once didn't help somebody fast enough, which you can read. All to say, perspective is very powerful. Joseph was able to see that what happened to him happened for the good, but it only really happened for the good because he turned it into a blessing. And I think that's, people reflect on this all the time. Why is this horrible thing happening to me? When we're in it, when we're in the pit, or when we're in prison, there is no meaning making. It's when we're able, if, God willing, we are able to get out of the pit, that we can look back and say, this too will be for the good because of where I'm going to take my life now. Right? I'm not going to turn into a vengeful person. I'm going to use this power to help others. Right? So let's let Joseph be our inspiration, Gamzu to be our inspiration in that way, where we're able to look back at even the hardest parts of this past year in our lives and say, Gamzu Latova, I'm going to make sure that this makes me a better person and therefore the world a better place. All right, Happy New Year, Shabbat Shalom.
Okay.